video, we will be discussing adolescent peer and romantic relationships by showing skits and interviews that involve peers, language barriers, and dating. This is a group of girls who have something in common. This is an example of ethnocentrism and prejudice. Ethnocentrism is characterized by or based on the attitude that one's own group is superior. Prejudice is an unfair feeling of dislike for a person or a group because of race, class, gender, and other things. Watch as these girls display ethnocentrism and prejudice towards another girl.
Yeah, so this is Corpus Christi, and we went on a track meet and all that kind of stuff. And so that was cool. So it's palm trees. It was super school.
Hi girls, I'm Jessica. I'm new at school. Can I sit with you guys?
Yeah, so Corpus Christi, all this kind of stuff. And yeah, the sunset was
Well,
really
I'll
nice.
talk to you later.
So that was the
Bye.
I know, right? It was really gorgeous out there too. So lucky.
Ladies, after doing the skit about ethnocentrism and prejudice, can you ladies at all have ever had this time in your life when you guys were adolescents?
Personally, when I was in high school, everybody had sort of a clique or a group that they belonged to, so it wasn't like I ever went outside of my group to go and talk to somebody else, and I didn't experience ethnocentrism or prejudice in that way because I always stayed within my group. I was part of the choir, so I was part of the music group, so I was always near them. I was actually in the choir also, but we had little groups within the choir, and so if my best friend or one of my other friends, one of my best friends or my other friends that I was kind of close to weren't there, in my section, it was sort of awkward, and the other girls were some of the other girls were just kind of to themselves, like an invisible wall sort of thing, and I was just okay, so.
I actually never experienced it, but I've also witnessed other people doing it. So one time there was this girl that was trying to sit with the cheerleaders, and none of the cheerleaders ever talked to her. So then she just kind of stood there waiting for the response, and they never said anything. So she just kind of did the same thing that Jada did and walked away. So I thought that was kind of rude in that kind of aspect.
A couple of weeks ago, I was shopping down at the plaza, and then I walked into the Coach store, and 5 minutes after, a Hispanic woman walked in, and she had on an oversized coat and a bag, and the salespeople, the moment I had walked in, were helping me, asking me what I was looking for, showing me wallets and bracelets, because that's what I wanted, and this one walked in, and they didn't even pay a moment's attention to her. They didn't go up to her, and I think it was under the assumption that she didn't have money to spend, and that when I walked in I did, and so it just was so obvious that there racial prejudice there.
Adolescents from other cultures and countries that do not speak English as their first language may face language barriers and other challenges when immigrating to another country. Even those of other countries who do speak English face language barriers that they may have to overcome, such as linguistics and expressions that make it difficult for the adolescents to socialize with their peers or may affect their education. We interviewed a couple of international students at Jewel and asked if they've experienced language barriers in a foreign country when it came to interacting with their peers. Where are you from?
I'm from Sweden.
Okay, have you had an experience with a language barrier when you came to an international school or with peers?
I think I lived abroad. I moved abroad when I was 10, and I had really basic English, so I could speak and communicate, but it was really a learning experience. And I just I was kind of low key, and I would just observe and kind of all the other students took a second language while I would take English as my language, and people are really friendly and understand that. Since it was an international environment, a lot of students came and didn't know English very well. So I learned it really quickly too. So I didn't experience that it was like, I could be really nervous if we were going to read out loud in class or something like that, and to answer questions in the beginning, but it got a lot better.
Do you think it affected your relationship with anybody?
I think it might have been harder to make friends at first, and there was another Swedish girl who I became really good friends with, because we had we could communicate in our language, but, I think that later, once my English got a little better and I could actually speak, I don't think it was much of a problem.
Where are you from?
I'm from the UK.
Okay, and have you experienced a language barrier when you came here with your peers?
There are definitely certain words that I'm lost upon, like four-wheeler, that's different, quad bike, so what we call it. And then other words, more inappropriate words, like back at home, we use a rubber to erase things, but here it's an eraser. So I learned that the hard way. There's certain words here and there that are challenging. I have to find out what they are. I'm like, oh, okay, that's what it is. That makes sense now. But
Did you feel like it affected any relationship with your peers or getting to know people, or?
I think it made it easier to get to know people because people thrive on that. They're like, oh, you don't know that? Or you teach you different words, like, what does this mean? Like, and like the way language sounds, like aluminium and things like that. People just love talking to you about different words. Like, many of the conversations are just talking about different words and seeing how we pronounce things. And so yeah, no, I think I thrived from it.
Nowadays, adolescents are more in control of who they are able to date and who they want to date. Dating has evolved and functions for more than just courtship and marriage. Dating is now part of the socialization process in adolescence. Adolescents learn how to cooperate with one another and learn social behavior. Adolescents also learn about intimacy, where they're able to establish meaningful and unique relationships with those of the same or opposite sex. It also serves as sexual experimentation and exploration, as well as providing companionship through shared activities and interactions. Dating contributes to identity formation and development for adolescents. In recent times, parents are either really involved in their adolescent's dating career or give the adolescent freedom to choose and explore it. We interviewed a mother of 4 to ask how she coped with the start of her oldest daughter dating and how cultures affected dating when she was younger compared to now.
Could you talk to us a bit about how you felt when your children first started dating?
My oldest is 27, and she's a girl, and she started dating really probably when she was 14 or 15, and I was really comfortable with it. I knew that she was surrounding herself by good people. The guy that she actually started dating was a couple years older than her, which I think is kind of common with girls. I mean, there were some other guys that she, the crushes and all that. I was really comfortable with it. She was a good student, a good person. He was a good guy, and it was really very comfortable.
How did you feel about your children dating people of other ethnicities?
You know what? It's funny because I always joked and said, I need somebody to marry somebody African American, somebody to marry all different ethnicities. So it never bothered me. I mean, I'm very comfortable. We're all people. We're white, black, blue, green. On a little personal, my husband and I'm Jewish. He's not. And so my grandparents didn't come to our wedding because he wasn't Jewish. And so I had a lot of hurt and anger because how do you judge somebody if you don't even know him? And he was very much like my grandfather. And I was like, I'm like falling in love with someone who's like my grandfather, and they didn't accept him. So I never, ever, ever had any problem. I know that I had friends of theirs who dated outside of their own, so to speak, and there was some conflict. And I think that's why my house was always someplace they could come to. I wound up raising a lot of kids because of that. And I was very happy to do that. I just feel we're all people.
When you were younger and you were dating, did you date anybody outside your race? And if you did, what was that like?
I did. When I was in high school, I dated an African-American gentleman for junior and senior year. It was fine in my immediate family. They were very comfortable with that people are people. But there was constant harassment and negative words said when we went out. We both worked in restaurants. And so we'd go to the late night bowling, go to the late night Denny's, and we frequently had people say, look at that white girl with that nigger. And it was really tough. You were constantly on defense, but it never stopped us from doing anything because we were people, we were good people, and we championed in that thought. And my immediate family was fine with that. I know as my kids got older, and their friends dated people outside of their race, that still 30 years later, there was a lot of that same skepticism and anger, and I was always happy because those kids, young adults at that time, could always come to my house and know it was a safe place. And so it was an issue, but it didn't affect myself or my life because of the decisions we made. People are people. I like that.
Here come bad news, talking this and that.